Hey Chiefs Kingdom! We have the latest Chiefs updates just for you, and I'll be giving you all the details as they happen. So if you want to stay in the loop, make sure you're subscribed to the channel because you don't want to miss out on what's coming. And hit that like button. Trust me, you won't want to miss this. Alright, let's talk about a potential game changer for the Kansas City Chiefs. Rumor has it, the Tennessee Titans might be willing to part ways with none other than DeAndre Hopkins. That's right, the star wide receiver could be on the move, and our Chiefs might be the perfect landing spot for him. The Titans managed to grab their first win of the season recently, but they're still far from being serious contenders. This has led to a lot of buzz around the idea that they might start selling off key players before the NFL trade deadline, and Hopkins is a name that keeps coming up. With the Chiefs in desperate need of help at wide receiver, especially after injuries to Marquise Brown and Rashee Rice, the timing couldn't be better. Bleacher Report's Alex K has already pointed out that Hopkins would be an ideal fit for our offense, especially under the leadership of Patrick Mahomes and head coach Andy Reid. Even though Hopkins might not be the same all-pro receiver we remember from his days with the Houston Texans, let's not forget, just last year, he racked up 75 receptions for over 1,000 yards and 7 touchdowns. Those are numbers we could absolutely use right now. With Brown out due to a shoulder injury and Rice suffering a potentially serious knee injury, our receiving core is looking pretty thin. Sure, we've got Xavier Worthy, but beyond that, there's not much depth. Bringing in Hopkins could provide the spark we need to elevate our aerial attack, and with Mahomes throwing the ball, you can bet Hopkins' numbers would bounce back in a big way. What do you all think? Should we make a move for DeAndre Hopkins, or is there another solution we should explore? Alright, here we go. We all know that Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce have formed one of the NFL's most powerful duos, leading our Kansas City Chiefs to 3 Super Bowl titles. But what happens when their alma maters face off? It turns out that even their friendship can't keep things calm when their college allegiances are on the line. Last Saturday, Mahomes' Texas Tech Red Raiders took on Kelce's Cincinnati Bearcats in a thrilling game. It went all the way, but Texas Tech pulled out a 44-41 victory after the Bearcats missed a 50-yard field goal on the final play. And as it turns out, Mahomes and Kelce had a little side bet going into the game. CBS NFL commentator Jim Nantz spilled the beans during the Chiefs' 17-10 win over the Chargers on Sunday. He revealed that because of the bet, Kelce will now have to wear a Texas Tech jersey and a Red Raiders mascot head on the next episode of the New Heights podcast with his brother Jason Kelce. Can you imagine the great Travis wearing a Red Raiders mascot head? That's priceless. Now, if Mahomes had lost the bet, he would have shown up to the Chiefs' next press conference wearing a Cincinnati Bearcats jersey and mascot head. It's safe to say Mahomes dodged a bullet there, and I'm sure he's feeling pretty good about not having to endure that humiliation. So, Chiefs fans, what do you think? Are you excited to see Kelce pay off the bet on the next episode of the podcast? And how would you feel about seeing Mahomes in a Bearcats jersey? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Now, let's talk about Justin Herbert and the Los Angeles Chargers. If you've been online recently, you've probably seen that viral clip of former Oregon Duck quarterback Justin Herbert slamming his helmet into a bench in frustration during their game against our Kansas City Chiefs. That's because the Chiefs' defense was all over him, and it showed. The Chargers lost the game 17-10, and it wasn't just another loss for Herbert and his squad. It was one that raised serious questions about the direction of their offense and whether Herbert has enough help to succeed moving forward. Let me give you some context here. Herbert was pressured on 51.7% of his dropbacks during the game, according to True Media Sports. That's the 4th highest amount of pressure Herbert has faced in his entire professional career. And trust me, as much as we love watching the Chiefs' defense get after quarterbacks, that stat tells a bigger story about the Chargers' struggles this season. A lot of the blame is falling on the Chargers' offensive line, which is really banged up right now. Both starting tackles, Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater, are out with injuries, Alt dealing with a knee injury and Slater with a pectoral issue. Without those key pieces on the outside, Herbert was basically a sitting duck, pun intended. He had to play through his own injury too, a high ankle sprain, which he re-aggravated the week before against the Pittsburgh Steelers. With limited mobility and a reshuffled offensive line, Herbert was a prime target for our defense all game long. But here's the silver lining for the Chargers. They've got a bye week coming up, and that could be exactly what Herbert needs to recover and regroup. Chargers head coach Jim Harbaugh mentioned that the team will practice this week and give an update on Herbert's ankle injury. He acknowledged that the offensive line needs to give Herbert more time to throw, and honestly, that's an understatement. Harbaugh said, "We've got to get just in another half second. It's incredible what he can do, but we need to give him more time, just another second." And that pressure was most noticeable in the fourth quarter, when the Chargers' offense completely stalled. Herbert was under constant duress, and both of the Chargers' drives in the fourth ended in punts. They didn't score at all outside of the first quarter, which shows just how much they're struggling to find consistency on offense right now. Another big issue for the Chargers is their lack of chemistry at wide receiver. Right now, they're second to last in the NFL in passing yards and fifth from the bottom in total yards. Herbert went 16 for 27 with 169 passing yards against the Chiefs. That's a pretty rough stat line, even though our defense did an excellent job of keeping him in check. To put it in perspective, Herbert isn't even making 180 passing yards per game, something he easily surpassed in 59 games last season. Coach Jim Harbaugh and offensive coordinator Greg Roman have been trying to implement a balanced offensive approach, focusing on both the pass and the run. On paper, that sounds like a solid plan, but in reality, it hasn't translated to success on the field. The Chargers are currently dead last in the league when it comes to first downs per game, and they rank 24th in points per game. That's not exactly the kind of offensive production you'd expect from a team with one of the league's most talented quarterbacks. Herbert's frustrations make sense, right? I mean, how can you not feel for the guy? He's out there battling an ankle injury, missing key offensive linemen, and not getting much help from his receivers. Even worse, the Chargers' offense has been so stagnant that Green Bay Packers quarterback Jordan Love, who's only played in 2 games this season, is almost on pace to surpass Herbert in passing yards. Yeah, that's a tough pill to swallow for Chargers fans. And let's not forget the infamous elevator incident earlier this season when Herbert got stuck. Maybe that was a sign of things to come for him and the Chargers' offense, stuck in neutral and unable to break free. But there's some hope on the horizon for Herbert and the Chargers. The bye week couldn't have come at a better time. It gives Herbert a chance to heal up and, hopefully, get at least one of his starting tackles back to protect him. The Chargers need more consistency from their receivers, and it's clear that their balanced offensive approach isn't working. They'll have to switch things up if they want to salvage the season. Coming out of the bye, the Chargers will face the Denver Broncos on the road. That game is set for October 13th, and it's going to be a crucial matchup for Herbert and the Chargers if they want to get their season back on track. But until then, they've got a lot of questions to answer, and they're running out of time to do it. So, Chiefs fans, what do you think? Do you feel like the Chargers can turn things around, or are they in for a rough season? Personally, I love seeing our defense dominate like they did against Herbert, but what's your take on this? And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. We'll be here with all the latest Chiefs news. Come on, Chiefs!